Well, a war of words has erupted between Australia and China after a Chinese fighter jet endangered an Australian Navy helicopter by firing flares over international waters.
Now, you'd think there'd be a strong rebuke from the government. Instead, here was Elbow.
This action by China was unprofessional and unacceptable. Look, this is unacceptable and it was unprofessional. We have made very strong representations at every level to China about this incident, which we regard as unprofessional and unacceptable.
Yeah, I'm sure China's shaking in its boots right there. I mean, that was the best he could come up with in the middle of a serious diplomatic incident.
And our colleague at Sky, Andrew Clennell, this week revealed there had been no minister-to-minister representation over this near miss. Not one of our government ministers has spoken to their counterpart in China, despite the PM insisting there had been, quote, strong representations at every level.
And this is just one of a series of incidents where Australian military personnel have been put at risk by China.
Our head-to-head debate topic tonight is Anthony Albanese too soft on China?
Joining us to discuss this is federal Liberal MP Garth Hamilton, who thinks Albo is too soft on China, and former Labor Senator Graham Richardson, who doesn't agree. Hi to you both. Really appreciate you joining us. Garth, we'll start with you. Has the Prime Minister missed a big opportunity this week to stand up tall and defend Australia?
Well, look, he has missed that opportunity, but let's be honest, going soft on things is kind of his party trick. He went soft on the unions with IR, he went soft on Israel with the disgraceful Palestine vote in the UN. He's going soft on gas. This is what he does. He's fundamentally misunderstood his Chinese counterparts here. This isn't unprofessional. This was a very professional and very coordinated and organised move by the CCP. They know exactly what they're doing because they see a weakness. Now, look, I don't think it's by arguing that he's gone too soft on China. It doesn't mean that he has to go in all hairy-chested and thumping the table. We do expect him to be reasonable, to stand up and to be our leader. And that requires calling China out. He clearly hasn't done that in a very literal sense. He hasn't made that contact that you would expect the Prime Minister of this country to do. But further, I think this is the proof point. No one believes that these provocations have come to an end. They will continue whilst Mr Albanese continues to show weakness. And unfortunately, that's clearly what he's doing.
Graham, this is the fourth such incident in the last 27 months where Australian service personnel have been in real danger. Shouldn't we expect more from our Prime Minister? I mean, he's really been pretty limp on this issue. And when you've got, as I said, Australian service people's lives at risk, ought we not have a Prime Minister who really takes strong, decisive action?
Yeah, look, I understand why you would say that. The difficulty is, of course, that managing the Chinese relationship is by far the most difficult task in our foreign affairs efforts, by far. I mean, how do you manage a relationship, a friendly one, with someone who's buying your coal while at the same time all of your defence planning and strategic efforts about fighting a war with them? I mean, it's really very difficult. And from the Chinese side, you can understand why they might find that a bit rich.
Can I ask you this, though, Graham? I agree with you, it's difficult. Do you think he's doing it well?
Yeah, look, I think he's doing it about as well as you can. I don't think any Prime Minister is ever going to be completely praised for what they do on China. But I think Albo sort of senses where the relationship ought to be. Now, the problem you get is that the Chinese just get hairy-chested every year or two and do something stupid just to show that they're there and they're tough and they are the great CCP. But, I mean, we just have to stand up and say, basically, we're here and we're not going anywhere.
That's the point. We need to stand up. Graham, that's exactly your point. And you made this point about Scott Morrison, I remember, in 2020, when he did stand up to the Chinese with that disgraceful social media piece that they tried to push about the Australian military. We do need to stand up. That's exactly the point. And that's what's missing here. He hasn't stood up. And he's completely misunderstood the relationship. And I agree with you, it's a difficult relationship. We point out, and we often go back to this, during the Cold War, we continued to sell wool to the Russians. Relationships can be managed. This one's being managed poorly.
Yeah, the relationships. This relationship will have to be better managed than it has been in recent times. Yeah, it's obviously not been perfectly managed or anywhere near it, and we need to do better.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the thing. If it's not being perfectly managed now, how do you get to that point where we can say to China, back off, but also keep a strong and healthy relationship, Garth?
Well, look, I think we're clearly seeing a tactic from China to try and separate us off from the herd like some sick wildebeest. We need to stay very strongly with our allies and do that at every opportunity that we can and show them, for example, on issues like Israel, that we're willing to stand up and we're not going to be moved by angry, shouting crowds. That is a very relevant point here. How we carry out the rest of our business, both domestically and with our international affairs, matters. The Chinese are watching absolutely everything we do. We want to be able to trade with them. We want to be able to continue a relationship that benefits both of us. But look, that's not where we are at the moment. And until we see that turn around, I think we can, unfortunately, prepare ourselves for more of these provocations.
Graham, you made me smile when you gave the bird to the Chinese Communist Party earlier. That's more action than I've seen Albanese take. But I got to ask you this. Albanese, he's boasted about the fact they've got communication flowing again between Canberra and Beijing. But communication seems to be flowing one way only, does it not?
Look, I think there's some truth in that remark. But you've got to get the channels open and have them open for a while before they'll operate properly. You know what the Chinese are like. They always sulk and show you how unhappy they are with you if you dare to disagree. So, every time you do disagree, you understand you're going to be punished for it by them in some way, trade way, whatever. They'll find a way because that's the way the Chinese operate. And I think we handle that relationship pretty well. We're used to it. It's been around a long time. And the other thing to remember, the Chinese have never forgotten. They have long memories. They have never forgotten who it was that went there to open up China first. Who were the outsiders who came in? Gough Whitlam. Gough Whitlam led the charge.
Well, with friends like that, who needs enemies? I mean, goodness me, if that's the way they remember us, by threatening and putting it at danger our military personnel, I think I'd rather have a better friend. And I don't know that we need to be friends. And I don't really care for their fond memories. I'd like them not to be putting our service people's lives at risk.
We're unfortunately out of time, but look, it's a fascinating debate, one we could keep going for a long time. Garth Hamilton, Graham Richardson, we'll leave it there. Really appreciate you joining us. Thank you.